Close your eyes. August 1st, 2017. At precisely 8:20 a.m. UTC, the Bitcoin blockchain splits into two. Not from a hack, not from a bug, from a disagreement. One chain keeps the old rules. The other, called Bitcoin Cash, doubles the block size and starts building in a different direction. Within hours, exchanges list two separate tickers. Wallets scramble to figure out which chain is which. Miners choose sides. People who had simply held Bitcoin overnight wake up to find they now have equal amounts of two different coins, one of which might be worth something and one of which might not. The technical question at the center of this split was deceptively simple. How big should a Bitcoin block be? 1 megabyte, as Satoshi had originally set it, or 8, as the other side was demanding? It sounds like an argument about file sizes, but it was not. It was a war over who gets to make decisions in a system designed so that no one is in charge. The fight had been building for 3 years. Miners against developers, corporations against cypherpunks, Roger Ver against the Bitcoin core team, forums deleted posts, conferences devolved into screaming matches, developers received death threats, and on August 1st, it all finally broke apart. This is the story of the Bitcoin Civil War, the most divisive moment in Bitcoin's history, and what it revealed about what Bitcoin actually is. As discussions heated up, it became clear that the community was at a crossroads. 2015 marked the launch of Bitcoin XT, spearheaded by developers Gavin Andresen and Mike Hearn. They proposed an 8 megabyte block size increase, a significant leap that they argued was necessary to accommodate Bitcoin's user base. But consensus was elusive. Bitcoin XT served as a bold challenge to the established Bitcoin core, sparking further division. In early 2016, another proposal emerged, Bitcoin Classic. This initiative suggested a more modest 2 megabyte block size increase. Initial enthusiasm gathered momentum, drawing support from several miners eager to see immediate changes. Yet the deep-rooted philosophical differences persisted. Those associated with Blockstream, a company influential within Bitcoin Core, stood firmly against on-chain scaling. They championed alternative solutions like the off-chain Lightning Network, which promised scalability without altering the block size. The debate reached a critical juncture with the introduction of segregated witness, or SegWit. This proposal aimed to increase block capacity without changing the block size limit, addressing issues such as transaction malleability. SegWit was a technical solution, yet it was also a political compromise. It represented an attempt to bridge the gap between warring factions, to find common ground amid intensifying discord. In May 2017, the New York Agreement sought further compromise. It was a proposal to activate SegWit, followed by a block size increase. Though well-intentioned, it too struggled to unite the divided community. The rift continued to widen until it culminated in a historic split, the birth of Bitcoin Cash. This new cryptocurrency, with its larger block size, stood as a testament to the profound impact of the debate. Years later, the block size war is remembered as one of Bitcoin's most pivotal chapters. It not only reshaped the cryptocurrency landscape, but also left a legacy of lessons learned about governance, consensus, and the challenges of evolving a decentralized network. As the echoes of this debate continue to influence Bitcoin's evolution, we are reminded that the questions we ask today can define the paths we tread tomorrow. And so we begin our exploration of this remarkable story. Lean in as we delve into Chapter 1, the scaling problem. And so we begin our exploration of this remarkable story. Lean in as we delve into Chapter 1, the scaling problem. In the nascent days of Bitcoin, a vision was crafted not just in code, but in the very soul of what currency could mean in a digital age. On January 3, 2009, an enigmatic figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto mined the Genesis block, forever marking the birth of Bitcoin. This was not just a technical feat, but a philosophical statement, a challenge to the traditional banking systems that had dominated for centuries. Bitcoin was designed as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, a way for people to transact without intermediaries. Yet, as with any revolutionary idea, the seeds of its future challenges were sown early on. In 2010, Nakamoto made a decision that would become pivotal to our story, a decision that capped the block size at 1 megabyte. This limit was initially a safeguard, a means to prevent spam transactions and ensure network security. At the time, it seemed reasonable, even prudent. Bitcoin was a fledgling project, with few transactions occurring on the network. But as years went by, Bitcoin's popularity began to surge unpredictably. By 2015, what once was seen as a protective measure started showing signs of strain. Blocks filled up, transactions slowed, and fees began their ascent. The system designed to be a liberating force was now shackled by its architecture. In the heart of this scaling issue lay a fundamental question. How could Bitcoin grow to support more users and transactions while remaining decentralized and secure? It was not merely a technical puzzle, but a philosophical conundrum. The founding principles of Bitcoin emphasized decentralization and trustlessness, yet those same principles were now being tested by growth and demand. For many in the Bitcoin community, the swelling transaction backlog and rising fees were not just inconveniences, they were existential threats. Bitcoin's promise of being an alternative to traditional financial systems seemed jeopardized. The urgency to address the scaling problem became palpable as transaction fees in early 2016 climbed to uncomfortable heights, sometimes reaching several dollars per transaction. For a currency envisioned to be as accessible as cash, this was unsustainable. Among those who sought solutions were prominent figures of the Bitcoin landscape, Gavin Andresen and Mike Hearn. Both were well-respected developers, deeply committed to Bitcoin's foundational ideals. In June 2015, they unveiled Bitcoin XT, a proposal that sought to increase the block size from 1 megabyte to 8 megabytes. It was an ambitious plan, aiming to alleviate congestion and reduce transaction costs by accommodating more data per block. To them, this was a logical step towards scaling Bitcoin for broader adoption. Yet, the proposal was met with mixed reactions. Some viewed Bitcoin XT as a necessary evolution, while others saw it as a potential threat to the decentralization that Bitcoin cherished. Increasing the block size meant requiring more resources to run a full node, which could centralize control in the hands of those with the capacity to manage larger infrastructure. The debate that emerged was not simply about technology, but about values, about what Bitcoin should ultimately represent. The tension within the community mirrored the broader societal debates about progress and the preservation of original ideals. Was Bitcoin to remain lean and purist, or should it adapt and evolve, even if that meant altering some of its core tenets? By 2016, the urgency to resolve the scaling problem intensified. The network was handling over 200,000 transactions per day, and the pressure on block space was palpable. The congestion wasn't just a technical issue, it was a human one. Users faced delays and escalating costs, threatening to disenchant those who had embraced Bitcoin's promise of financial liberation. This growing pain was felt most acutely in places like South America and Africa, where Bitcoin had emerged as a lifeline amid economic instability. Throughout 2016, debates raged on forums and conferences. Technical arguments interwove with heated philosophical discussions. The Bitcoin community, once a united front against the external pressures of regulatory scrutiny and competitive technologies, found itself fracturing from within. The conversations were no longer just about code. They were about the soul of Bitcoin. It was during this period of discord that another solution began to gain traction. Bitcoin Classic emerged as an alternative proposal, advocating for a more conservative increase to 2 megabytes. This compromise sought to balance the desires for increased transaction capacity with the caution of preserving Bitcoin's decentralized ethos. In early 2016, Bitcoin Classic found an audience eager for resolution, drawing initial support from miners keen on maintaining a stable and efficient network. The miners, whose role in securing the Bitcoin network was critical, now found themselves at a crossroads. Supporting larger block sizes aligned with their interests. More transactions meant more fees, but they also had to consider the network's long-term health. The miners' decisions were not only motivated by economic calculations, but also by their commitment to the community and its future. As the months passed, the scaling debate only widened. The sense of urgency, coupled with the inability to find consensus, created a charged atmosphere of anxiety and anticipation. The community was waiting for a breakthrough, a solution that could bridge the growing divide. Yet the path forward remained elusive. The complexity of the situation was evident. It was a reminder that Bitcoin was not just code and cryptography. It was about people with dreams, fears, and differing visions for the future. The scaling problem was more than a technical hurdle. It was a reflection of the human condition itself, with all its conflicts and contradictions. Each proposal, each debate, highlighted the tensions inherent in any collective endeavor. The need to scale Bitcoin forced the community to confront fundamental questions about trust, autonomy, and the essence of money in the digital age. As we close this chapter, the questions linger, unresolved but ever pressing. What would it take to reach consensus? Could the community navigate these turbulent waters without fracturing irreparably? These were not questions with easy answers. Yet in seeking them, the community continued to shape the future of an idea that had already changed so much. The stage was set for a new chapter, one defined by decisions and forks in the road that would challenge and redefine the very nature of Bitcoin. The journey through these crossroads awaited. As the dust settled from the launch of Bitcoin XT, the community found itself at a crossroads. It was early 2016, and while some found promise in the 8-megabyte block size proposal by Gavin Andresen and Mike Hearn, others were wary of its implications. In this vacuum of consensus, a new proposal emerged, offering a more conservative approach to Bitcoin's scaling dilemma. This proposal was known as Bitcoin Classic. Unlike Bitcoin XT's ambitious 8-megabyte increase, Bitcoin Classic suggested a more modest 2-megabyte block size. On paper, it seemed a reasonable compromise, large enough to provide some immediate relief from rising fees, yet small enough not to radically alter the network's structure. By February 2016, Bitcoin Classic gained the support of several influential figures and mining pools, propelling it into the spotlight. Among those who supported Bitcoin Classic was Jonathan Tumim, a developer and miner known for his advocacy of more extensive on-chain scaling. He argued that a 2-megabyte block size could double Bitcoin's transaction throughput without jeopardizing the decentralization that was central to its ethos. Miners like Tumim saw Bitcoin Classic as a practical solution to the congestion that was increasingly plaguing the network. Back in January 2016, the Bitcoin network was handling approximately 200,000 transactions daily. The 1-megabyte block size set by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2010 was reaching its limits. As transaction volumes grew, so did the backlog and fees. Users faced delays, sometimes extending to several hours, and fees rose to unsustainable levels, averaging 50 cents per transaction by March 2016. The urgency for a solution was palpable. In late February 2016, Bitcoin Classic's network support hit 10%. Miners, businesses, and developers alike were aligning behind it as a practical step forward. Prominent exchanges such as Coinbase and Bitstamp voiced their support, providing crucial legitimacy. With the backing of roughly 20% of the network by March, Bitcoin Classic seemed poised to succeed. However, this momentum was not without its challenges. The proposal to increase the block size, even modestly, was met with fierce resistance from certain quarters. Bitcoin core developers, the custodians of Bitcoin's original protocol, expressed concerns that any change to block size needed careful consideration. Their argument hinged on the need to preserve decentralization and maintain the network's security. One of the principal voices of caution was Gregory Maxwell, a respected cryptographer and Bitcoin core developer. Maxwell argued that increasing the block size, even to 2 megabytes, could lead to centralization. Larger blocks required more resources to propagate across the network, potentially squeezing out smaller nodes. This could shift power towards larger entities, undermining Bitcoin's decentralized nature. In April 2016, the debate reached a fever pitch. The community was divided, with some proponents of Bitcoin Classic claiming their solution as the only viable path forward. Detractors, however, warned of the risks associated with any form of rushed protocol change. This ideological split was more than technical, it was philosophical, touching upon the very soul of Bitcoin. For many, it was a question of what Bitcoin should be. Should it primarily serve as a decentralized store of value, akin to digital gold? Or should it fulfill its original promise as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, facilitating everyday transactions swiftly and cheaply? This fundamental question underscored the block size debate, making consensus elusive. Meanwhile, Bitcoin Classic's developers continued to push for adoption. By June 2016, roughly 30% of network hash power signaled support, though this fell short of the 75% threshold required to activate the hard fork. The limitations became apparent, as no single solution could unilaterally resolve the complex dynamics at play. As the year progressed, enthusiasm for Bitcoin Classic began to wane. The lack of consensus meant that the status quo remained, with blocks continuing to fill and fees rising. Some saw this impasse as a failure of Bitcoin governance, highlighting the difficulties in achieving agreement within a decentralized community. Others, however, viewed it as a testament to Bitcoin's resilience, an indication that changes required thorough debate and scrutiny. By late 2016, the focus began to shift away from Bitcoin Classic. The community turned its attention to other proposals, such as segregated witness, SegWit, which promised to increase block capacity without altering block size. Despite its initial promise, Bitcoin Classic's inability to garner overwhelming support signified a turning point. As we reflect on Bitcoin Classic's rise, it serves as a pivotal chapter in Bitcoin's journey. It highlighted the challenges of scaling, decentralization, and the ideological rifts that would continue to shape Bitcoin's future. Ultimately, it underscored the necessity for compromise and the ongoing quest for solutions that balance growth with core principles. Yet the block size debate was far from over. With Bitcoin Classic's decline, new proposals awaited in the wings, each promising to navigate the complexities of Bitcoin's evolution in their own way. The stage was set for the next chapter in this unfolding saga, a chapter that would see the community once again wrestle with its aspirations, challenges, and the diverse visions for Bitcoin's future. In the heart of the debate, Bitcoin Classic emerged as a beacon for those who sought a middle ground. Bitcoin Classic proposed a modest increase to a 2 megabyte block size. This proposal was seen as a compromise, a bridge between the radical 8 megabyte increase suggested by Bitcoin XT and the steadfast adherence to the 1 megabyte limit. The idea of Bitcoin Classic was announced in early 2016, garnering immediate attention from both miners and businesses. Among its early supporters was Jeff Garzik, a well-respected developer within the Bitcoin community. Garzik, along with others, believed that a moderate increase could alleviate network congestion without sacrificing decentralization. Bitcoin Classic's proposal was simple yet promising. By merely doubling the block size, It aimed to maintain the integrity of the blockchain while accommodating more transactions. This would, in theory, reduce transaction fees, making Bitcoin more accessible to everyday users. The response from the community was immediate and divided. Some saw the potential for immediate relief from high fees and slow transaction times. Others warned of potential pitfalls, citing risks to network security and decentralization. These warnings echoed from previous debates, but the allure of a tangible solution attracted significant attention. Initially, Bitcoin Classic gained considerable traction. Within a few months of its announcement, notable mining pools like Antpool and BW.com signaled their support. By February 2016, these pools represented over 70% of the network's hash power. This level of support was unprecedented, suggesting that change was not only desirable but imminent. But with every step forward came resistance. Bitcoin Core developers, steadfast in their vision, voiced concerns over even minor increases to the block size. They argued that such changes could require more storage and bandwidth, potentially alienating smaller nodes and centralizing the network further. For them, the integrity of Bitcoin was paramount, and they believed that even a 2-megabyte block was a step too far. The tensions between factions were palpable. Meetings were held, forums buzzed with heated discussions, and social media became a battleground for ideas and ideologies. The Bitcoin Classic initiative would bring together some of the brightest minds in the space, yet the divide only seemed to grow deeper. Perhaps the most notable event during this period was a summit held in Hong Kong in February 2016. Known as the Satoshi Roundtable, this gathering aimed to bridge divides and foster dialogue among prominent figures in the Bitcoin community. Names like Adam Back, Greg Maxwell, and Jihan Wu attended, representing various facets of the debate. Despite the gathering's intentions, consensus remained elusive. The participants could not agree on a unified path forward. While the meeting was a testament to the community's commitment to communication and collaboration, it also highlighted the stark differences in philosophy and priority. Bitcoin Classic's initial momentum began to wane as the year progressed. Developers within the Bitcoin Core camp proposed alternative solutions, diverting attention and support away from the Classic proposal. These solutions focused on optimizing the existing protocol without altering the block size, a concept that became increasingly attractive to those wary of the risks associated with larger blocks. By mid-2016, the landscape had shifted. The initial enthusiasm for Bitcoin Classic faced diminishing returns. The network hash power supporting Classic began to decline, with miners reconsidering their positions amidst emerging solutions and ongoing debates. Despite its decline in influence, Bitcoin Classic's legacy was not without impact. It demonstrated the strength of consensus within the community and highlighted the importance of adaptability and compromise. The discussions it prompted would pave the way for future innovations that would reshape Bitcoin's scalability. While Bitcoin Classic struggled to maintain its momentum, another key player was emerging: Blockstream. Founded in 2014, Blockstream was at the forefront of blockchain technology, advocating for solutions that prioritized security and decentralization over immediate scalability gains. This philosophy often put them at odds with proposals like Bitcoin Classic. Blockstream, alongside Bitcoin Core developers, emphasized the potential of off-chain scaling solutions. One such proposal was the Lightning Network, which aimed to facilitate quicker transactions by moving the majority of them off the main blockchain. This approach promised to alleviate congestion without altering the fundamental structure of the blockchain. Blockstream's influence grew in parallel with the debate surrounding on-chain versus off-chain solutions. The divide was not merely technical, but philosophical, reflecting differing visions of what Bitcoin should become. Should it remain a secure store of value or evolve as a global transactional network? This question would linger as the community continued to explore various paths forward. By the end of 2016, Bitcoin Classic had largely faded from the spotlight, but its influence persisted in the form of ongoing dialogue and innovation within the space. As we turn the page to the next chapter, we see the introduction of a new proposal, segregated witness, or SegWit as it became known. SegWit aimed to increase block capacity without directly altering the block size limit, offering a compromise that would once again challenge the community's ability to unite behind a shared vision. SegWit's story is one of technical ingenuity and strategic negotiation, set against the backdrop of a community searching for common ground amidst widening divisions. As we delve deeper into its inception and impact, the narrative of Bitcoin's evolution continues to unfold. Together, we embark on this next chapter, one that promises new insights into the challenges and triumphs of Bitcoin's journey. The lessons learned from Bitcoin Classic, alongside emerging technologies, set the stage for future debates and innovations. Thus, the saga of Bitcoin, a remarkable tapestry woven with threads of ambition, conflict, and compromise, continues to unravel, ever complex and perpetually intriguing. In the heart of the Bitcoin community, a schism had begun to take shape by mid-2015. On one side stood the Bitcoin core developers, steadfast in their vision of Bitcoin as a secure and decentralized network, resistant to hasty changes. On the other, a group of developers and miners advocated for immediate scaling through increased block sizes, fearing that slow growth could undermine Bitcoin's potential as a global payment system. Blockstream, a company co-founded by several influential developers like Gregory Maxwell and Adam Back, became synonymous with the core's philosophy. Established in 2014, Blockstream focused on advancing Bitcoin's scalability through off-chain solutions, particularly the Lightning Network. This proposal offered a revolutionary idea. Rather than increasing block size, Bitcoin could benefit from a second layer that facilitated faster transactions off the main blockchain. This would maintain Bitcoin's decentralized nature while also addressing scalability concerns. By 2016, the debate intensified. Conversations had moved from developer mailing lists to Twitter threads and Reddit forums, where heated exchanges often devolved into personal attacks. Conferences became battlegrounds, with panels turning into debates and audiences divided. In May of that year, at the Consensus Conference in New York, emotions ran high. On stage, Roger Ver, a prominent Bitcoin evangelist known for his support of bigger blocks, debated with Blockstream's co-founder, Adam Back. Their discussion encapsulated the community's divide, and the room's tension was palpable. Behind these debates were deeper philosophical differences about Bitcoin's future. For those aligned with Blockstream and Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin was akin to digital gold, a store of value, rather than a day-to-day transaction medium. They argued that increasing the block size could lead to centralization, risking the dominance of a few powerful miners and, ultimately, control over the network. These concerns were not unfounded. Larger blocks could indeed make it more costly and technically challenging for nodes to operate, potentially reducing their number and increasing the risk of centralization. Opponents of this view, however, emphasized Bitcoin's original white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto, which envisioned Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. They believed that without increasing the block size, Bitcoin would become expensive and slow for everyday transactions, losing its relevance as a practical currency. Miners, who profited from transaction fees and were incentivized by potential revenue from increased transactions, largely supported this camp. By early 2016, Bitcoin Classic emerged as another attempt to address the scaling issue. This proposal called for a modest block size increase to 2 megabytes, positioning itself as a middle ground. While it garnered initial enthusiasm and miner support, it too faced significant resistance from the core developers. Notable figures like Gavin Andresen and Jeff Garzik, who were early adopters and influencers in the Bitcoin space, voiced their support for Classic, adding to its legitimacy and support. However, Bitcoin Classic's momentum was short-lived. Despite securing backing from some major mining pools and exchanges, it struggled to achieve the necessary consensus for implementation. The project's proposal required a supermajority, at least 75% of the network's hash power, to activate the change, a threshold it never reached. This lack of consensus highlighted a central challenge within the Bitcoin ecosystem, achieving widespread agreement. Unlike traditional financial systems governed by centralized authorities, Bitcoin's decentralized nature made it reliant on community consensus. Without it, even the most technically sound solutions could not be implemented. Amidst these developments, the debate took a new turn with the introduction of segregated witness, or SegWit, in late 2015 by Pieter Wuille, a Bitcoin Core developer. SegWit was proposed as a compromise solution. It did not directly increase the block size, but instead improved the way data was stored in blocks, effectively increasing capacity. Additionally, it addressed the issue of transaction malleability, a vulnerability in the transaction process that allowed for potential fraud. SegWit gained traction as a technically elegant solution. Many saw it as a way to enhance Bitcoin's scalability without compromising its decentralized ethos. Yet, its path to activation was fraught with challenges. Like other proposals, SegWit required consensus, and not everyone was convinced that it was the right path forward. Opponents argued that SegWit was a temporary fix and did not address the fundamental issue of block size. They viewed it as an unnecessary complication that distracted from the more straightforward solution of increasing the block size. Moreover, some believed that SegWit's implementation would further centralize power among core developers and entities like Blockstream, who were perceived as gatekeepers of Bitcoin's future. Tensions reached a peak in 2017. The community's inability to reach consensus highlighted the broader challenge of governance in decentralized networks. Unlike a corporation or a government with clear leadership and decision-making processes, Bitcoin's decentralized community needed to find new ways to resolve disagreements and implement changes. Yet, amidst the discord, the need for a resolution became ever more pressing. Transaction fees continued to rise, and network congestion was a growing reality. By early 2017, users faced transaction fees exceeding $30 during peak times, making Bitcoin impractical for small transactions. This situation fueled urgency among all stakeholders, prompting new rounds of discussions and negotiations. Out of this urgency emerged the New York Agreement in May 2017. Convened by Barry Silbert, founder of Digital Currency Group, this agreement sought to broker a compromise between the warring factions. It proposed the activation of SegWit, followed by an increase in the block size to 2 megabytes. This two-step plan aimed to address the immediate scaling needs while satisfying both camps. The New York Agreement was signed by representatives from over 50 companies, accounting for more than 80% of Bitcoin's hash power. It seemed like a breakthrough, a moment of unity in a time of division. Yet, the agreement faced immediate criticism. Many in the Bitcoin Core camp argued that it was orchestrated behind closed doors, lacking transparency and community involvement. Despite these criticisms, the plan moved forward. SegWit was activated on August 24, 2017, marking a significant milestone in Bitcoin's evolution. However, the promise of a subsequent block size increase remained contentious. By November 2017, the second phase of the plan, known as SegWit 2x, was abruptly canceled. This decision further splintered the community and paved the way for the creation of Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash emerged on August 1, 2017, as a separate cryptocurrency with an 8 megabyte block size limit. It was a direct response to the perceived shortcomings of the New York Agreement and SegWit implementation. Supporters viewed it as a return to Satoshi's original vision, offering a solution for Bitcoin's scalability issues without the complexity of off-chain solutions. The split was more than just a technical division. It reflected the deep ideological rift within the community. For many, it was a moment of loss, the end of a shared journey that had begun with Bitcoin's inception. For others, it was a new beginning, an opportunity to forge a path true to their vision. As Bitcoin Cash began to establish itself, the dust started to settle on the turbulent period of debate. Yet the legacy of these events continued to shape the broader cryptocurrency landscape. Questions about governance, consensus, and scalability remained central to ongoing discussions, influencing new projects and innovations. In the aftermath of this tumultuous time, the Bitcoin community was left to reflect on the lessons learned. The debates had revealed the challenges and opportunities inherent in a decentralized system. They underscored the power of collective action, while also highlighting the difficulties in achieving consensus without clear leadership. The story of the Bitcoin block size debate is a testament to the resilience and adaptability of open-source communities. As the dust settled, a new chapter in Bitcoin's history began to unfold, one that would continue to shape its future in unexpected ways. And so, with the birth of Bitcoin Cash, a new era of possibilities and challenges emerged. The path forward was uncertain, but the journey was far from over. The SegWit proposal, introduced in December 2015 by Peter Will, sought to address multiple concerns facing the Bitcoin network, principally the issue of transaction malleability. Transaction malleability, a flaw in Bitcoin's original protocol, allowed slight alterations in transaction identifiers which could disrupt tracking and processing. SegWit, short for segregated witness, offered a novel solution by moving the witness data, essentially the script signatures, outside the main block. This adjustment increased the effective block capacity without technically increasing the block size beyond 1 megabyte. Despite its technical elegance, SegWit faced skepticism and even resistance within the Bitcoin community. Many proponents of larger blocks viewed it as an inadequate solution to the burgeoning scalability problem. Larger blocks, they argued, were necessary to keep network fees low and transaction throughput high. SegWit, while improving efficiency, did not directly increase the maximum size of each block. This nuanced distinction was lost on those who saw larger blocks as the straightforward path forward. Yet, SegWit's potential to fix transaction malleability was significant. By eliminating this vulnerability, it paved the way for more robust innovations like the Lightning Network, an off-chain scaling solution. The Lightning Network envisioned faster and cheaper transactions by establishing payment channels outside the main blockchain. For several proponents, SegWit offered a compromise in a community starkly divided by ideology. Among its supporters were notable figures like Willa himself, as well as Bitcoin core developers who viewed SegWit as a step in the right direction. However, it also drew attention from industry players skeptical of increasing the complexity of the protocol. In the spring of 2016, the debate over SegWit intensified as the Bitcoin network continued to swell under its own success. Transaction fees were reaching unprecedented levels, and the backlog of unconfirmed transactions grew longer by the day. The community's mantra of decentralization was being tested as never before. Public discussions, online forums, and conferences became the battlegrounds for passionate debates. In May 2016, the Consensus Conference in New York City hosted an influential panel where key voices in the Bitcoin ecosystem debated the merits of SegWit. Figures like Greg Maxwell, a prominent Bitcoin core developer, defended SegWit's virtues, underscoring its potential to unlock more scalability solutions. Meanwhile, others argued that the proposal was too little, too late. On August 24th, 2017, after much deliberation and negotiation, SegWit was finally activated via Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 141, or BIP 141. Its activation marked a pivotal moment in Bitcoin's history. SegWit was championed as a temporary measure rather than a permanent fix, intended to ease pressures while longer-term solutions were devised. The activation of SegWit did not quell the community's disputes, but it did offer a semblance of progress. Transactions could now be processed more efficiently, reducing some of the immediate strain on the network. Yet, the underlying philosophical divide remained unresolved, causing the lines to be drawn deeper in the sand. SegWit's implementation set the stage for the next chapter in this ongoing saga, the New York Agreement. Organized in May 2017, the New York Agreement was an attempt to forge a compromise between advocates of SegWit and those who wanted larger blocks. This meeting convened critical industry figures and corporations, including representatives from 58 companies across 22 countries. There, a plan emerged to activate SegWit first and then follow it with a hard fork to increase the block size to 2 megabytes. This proposal, colloquially referred to as SegWit 2x, aimed to satisfy both camps. It promised increased capacity through SegWit and a tangible increase in block size. But the hope for unity was short-lived. Many felt the New York Agreement was conducted behind closed doors, excluding community input. Detractors claimed it violated the decentralized ethos Bitcoin cherished. Developers from the Bitcoin core team were notably absent from the discussions, undermining the agreement's credibility in the eyes of many. As 2017 progressed, tensions escalated. A countdown to the SegWit 2x hard fork loomed. Scheduled for November, the proposed fork became a flashpoint for the broader dispute. Proponents focused on fulfilling the agreement's promises, while detractors prepared for the fallout of what they saw as an unnecessary bifurcation of the network. In the weeks leading up to the proposed fork, exchanges and wallet providers braced for impact. Contingency plans were laid in case the network split into 2 incompatible chains. Market uncertainty swelled as the date approached, casting a shadow over Bitcoin's value. Then, on November 8, 2017, SegWit 2x was abruptly suspended. The announcement, made by influential industry figures like Mike Belshe, Wences Casares, and Eric Voorhees, cited a lack of consensus as the driving reason behind the decision. Unfortunately, it is clear that we have not built sufficient consensus for a clean block size upgrade at this time, they wrote. This suspension was both a relief and a disappointment. It averted an immediate split, but left unresolved questions about Bitcoin's long-term scalability. The SegWit 2x debacle underscored the community's deep divisions and the complex interplay of technical and ideological differences. In the wake of SegWit 2x's cancellation, the stage was set for the emergence of Bitcoin Cash. On August 1, 2017, even before SegWit 2x was halted, Bitcoin Cash had already forked from Bitcoin, embodying the big block vision. With an 8 megabyte block size and a commitment to on-chain scaling, Bitcoin Cash represented a tangible shift in strategy for those dissatisfied with SegWit. The creation of Bitcoin Cash highlighted a fundamental truth. Bitcoin was no longer a monolithic entity, but a fragmented ecosystem of ideas. It underscored that the community's schisms were not just technical, but deeply philosophical. As 2017 came to a close, Bitcoin found itself at a crossroads. While SegWit had been an advancement, it was clear that the conversation surrounding scalability and decentralization was far from over. In the aftermath of these tumultuous events, the Bitcoin community was left to grapple with the legacy of the block size debate. The new year beckoned, hinting at further innovations and perhaps more divisions. With SegWit's lessons still fresh, the question remained, what path would the Bitcoin community choose next? With SegWit's lessons still fresh, the question remained, what path would the Bitcoin community choose next? The New York Agreement of May 2017 offered a glimmer of hope for consensus. Signed at the Consensus 2017 conference in New York City, this agreement was not just another proposal. It was a bold attempt to unify a divided community. The initiative was spearheaded by Barry Silbert, CEO of Digital Currency Group. Over 50 companies, representing more than 80% of Bitcoin's hashing power, pledged their support. Among them were prominent names like Bitmain, Blockchain.info, and BTC.com. The proposal was straightforward: activate SegWit and increase the block size limit to 2 megabytes. The New York Agreement seemed like a necessary compromise. It promised the benefits of SegWit alongside an immediate increase in capacity. However, not everyone was convinced. For some, the agreement appeared to prioritize business interests over technical soundness. The Bitcoin core developers were notably absent from the list of signatories. They viewed the agreement as an imposition, a pressure tactic devoid of the democratic principles that Bitcoin had been founded upon. For them, any change to the protocol required careful consideration, not business-driven haste. As summer approached, tensions simmered beneath the surface. June 2017 saw a flurry of debates on online forums, social media, and private meetings. The community was polarized between those who saw the New York Agreement as a solution and those who perceived it as a threat. One voice that rose above the din was that of Jihan Wu, co-founder of Bitmain. Wu was an advocate for larger blocks, believing they were essential for Bitcoin's future as a global payment system. In a blog post, he argued that the New York Agreement was a necessary compromise to prevent a contentious split. Yet, despite his influence, skepticism remained. The agreement contained a built-in deadline: SegWit activation by August 1, 2017, followed by a block size increase by November 2017. It was a race against time, with mounting pressure from all sides. As the first deadline loomed, a sense of urgency pervaded the community. Miners scrambled to signal their support for SegWit, eager to demonstrate their commitment to the agreement. By July, the threshold for activation was finally met, marking a significant victory for proponents of SegWit. But the story was far from over. As SegWit became a reality, the question of the block size increase persisted. Here, the coalition of miners and businesses faced a formidable challenge. On July 22, 2017, a group of developers led by Immerse announced the launch of Bitcoin ABC. Bitcoin ABC was a software implementation that rejected the New York Agreement's block size compromise. Instead, it proposed an immediate increase to 8 megabytes, sparking the creation of Bitcoin Cash. As the August 1st deadline approached, the Bitcoin network prepared for a possible fork. Many feared the worst: chaos, confusion, and financial loss. Some exchanges, such as Coinbase, initially opted not to support Bitcoin Cash, citing technical and legal concerns. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, Bitcoin Cash was launched successfully. On August 1, 2017, the Bitcoin network split, and the first block of Bitcoin Cash was mined by via BTC. The battle for Bitcoin's future reached a critical juncture. The split was a seismic event in the history of cryptocurrency. It was not just the birth of a new coin, but a defining moment in Bitcoin's journey. For some, it was a liberation, a testament to Bitcoin's decentralized ethos. For others, it represented a betrayal of Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision. The community was fractured, and the path forward was uncertain. The creation of Bitcoin Cash underscored the deep divisions within the Bitcoin community. In the aftermath of the fork, Bitcoin Cash quickly gained traction. Major exchanges, initially hesitant, began listing the new cryptocurrency. By the end of the year, Bitcoin Cash had solidified its position as a prominent player in the cryptocurrency landscape. Reflecting on the split, Roger Ver, a vocal supporter of Bitcoin Cash, expressed his belief that the fork was necessary to preserve Bitcoin's original purpose. In numerous interviews, Ver described Bitcoin Cash as the real Bitcoin, emphasizing its commitment to low fees and fast transactions. Despite the contentious atmosphere, the split resulted in technological innovation. Bitcoin Cash's larger blocks offered a glimpse of a different scaling path. Meanwhile, Bitcoin Core developers continued to focus on off-chain solutions like the Lightning Network. As the dust settled, the community began to take stock of what had transpired. The block size debate had fundamentally changed the dynamics of the Bitcoin ecosystem. It forced stakeholders to confront critical questions about governance, decentralization, and the essence of Bitcoin itself. The New York Agreement, despite its ambitious goals, ultimately fell short of unifying the community. Its failure highlighted the complexities of achieving consensus in a decentralized world. Yet it also served as a catalyst for new conversations and ideas. As the year drew to a close, Bitcoin's price soared to unprecedented heights. The world watched with fascination as the cryptocurrency made headlines across the globe. The split, however, was a sobering reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. In the end, the New York Agreement was but a chapter in the ongoing saga of Bitcoin's evolution. It was a moment that encapsulated both the promise and peril of building a new financial system. The lessons learned from this period would continue to influence the community for years to come. The story of Bitcoin's fork set the stage for future debates and developments. With each passing day, the crypto world continued to evolve, driven by innovation and ambition. The next chapter awaited, filled with new challenges and opportunities on the horizon. The creation of Bitcoin Cash on August 1, 2017, marked a pivotal moment in the cryptocurrency world. On that day, at block 478,558, the Bitcoin blockchain split into two separate entities. Bitcoin Cash emerged with an 8 megabyte block size limit, a stark contrast to Bitcoin's 1 megabyte cap. This decision was driven by a faction that believed larger blocks were essential for Bitcoin to function as digital cash at scale. The immediate aftermath saw fervent discussions and heated exchanges across forums and social media platforms. Those who supported Bitcoin Cash viewed the fork as a necessary evolution to preserve Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision. For them, Bitcoin Cash represented a commitment to low fees and fast transactions. Conversely, Bitcoin Core supporters saw Bitcoin Cash as a deviation from the authentic Bitcoin, prioritizing security and decentralization over transaction speed. The split, however, did more than create a new cryptocurrency. It exposed deep ideological rifts within the community, laying bare the challenges of achieving consensus in a decentralized network. For some, the fork was an expression of Bitcoin's decentralized ethos, a community empowered to make radical changes when necessary. For others, it underscored the fragility of consensus and the potential for division in the absence of a central authority. The market's response was telling. Within days, Bitcoin Cash gained significant traction on exchanges, even as skeptics questioned its long-term viability. On August 19, 2017, Bitcoin Cash hit a high of over $900 per unit, illustrating both its appeal and the speculative fervor surrounding digital currencies. Meanwhile, despite initial concerns, Bitcoin's price remained resilient, demonstrating its entrenched position and widespread confidence among investors. As months passed, both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash continued to evolve, each reinforcing its distinct philosophy. Bitcoin Core developers focused on second-layer solutions like the Lightning Network, aiming to enhance scalability without altering the fundamental blockchain structure. This approach was in line with their vision of Bitcoin as a secure and decentralized store of value. On the other hand, Bitcoin Cash developers prioritized on-chain scaling, with further block size increases explored to boost transaction throughput. The ongoing rivalry between the two camps often played out in public forums and industry events. Proponents of Bitcoin Cash frequently touted its lower fees and faster transaction times as evidence of its superiority as a medium of exchange. Bitcoin supporters, however, cautioned against sacrificing security and decentralization for performance gains. This debate was emblematic of the broader tensions within the cryptocurrency community, balancing innovation against the preservation of core principles. From a historical perspective, the block size debate and subsequent fork offered valuable lessons on governance in decentralized systems. It highlighted the importance of open dialogue and the need for effective mechanisms to resolve conflicts. The dispute also emphasized the role of economic incentives in shaping network dynamics, as miners and developers aligned with the chain that best served their interests. Ultimately, the episode underscored the complexity of scaling a decentralized network without compromising its foundational attributes. The impact of the fork extended beyond the Bitcoin ecosystem. It prompted other blockchain projects to reconsider their scaling strategies and governance models. Ethereum, for example, embarked on its own journey towards scalability with proposals like Ethereum 2.0, seeking to address similar challenges faced by Bitcoin. The debate also inspired discussions around decentralized finance, where scalability and usability are critical components of long-term success. For individuals involved in the block size debate, the fork was a moment of reflection and recalibration. Developers like Gavin Anderson and Mike Hearn, who had championed larger blocks, found themselves reassessing their roles and contributions to Bitcoin's evolution. For others, the division reaffirmed their commitment to the principles they believed were essential for Bitcoin's future. This introspection was mirrored across the community, as participants considered their place in a landscape marked by rapid change and ideological diversity. The legacy of the block size debate continues to shape discussions on Bitcoin's scalability and governance. New proposals are often evaluated through the lens of past experiences, with lessons from the fork serving as a guide for future decisions. Community members remain vigilant to ensure that consensus mechanisms evolve in ways that support both innovation and stability. This ongoing dialogue reflects the dynamic nature of decentralized networks and the shared aspiration to create resilient, inclusive financial systems. As the cryptocurrency space continues to mature, the events of 2017 remain a touchstone for developers, investors, and enthusiasts alike. The block size debate exemplifies the challenges and opportunities inherent in open-source communities, where passionate individuals strive to balance competing priorities. It also serves as a reminder of the power of collaboration and the potential for collective action to drive meaningful change. Through this lens, the Bitcoin Cash fork is not merely a historical footnote, but a pivotal chapter in the ongoing story of digital currency. The road ahead for both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash is one of continued evolution and adaptation. As they navigate the complexities of scalability, security, and adoption, the lessons of the past will inform their paths forward. The block size debate, with its rich tapestry of human stories and technological challenges, offers a framework for understanding the broader narrative of cryptocurrency development. As we look to the future, the echoes of 2017 will undoubtedly resonate, guiding decisions and shaping the trajectory of decentralized finance. In the end, the split was not just about block size, it was about vision and values, a testament to the enduring impact of collective action in shaping the digital frontier. As we delve into Chapter 8, we explore how Bitcoin continues to evolve, charting new territories in an ever-changing landscape. As we delve into Chapter 8, we explore how Bitcoin continues to evolve, charting new territories in an ever-changing landscape. The aftermath of the block size debate left the Bitcoin community in reflection, introspection, and in some cases, regret. It was a moment that demanded an investigation not only into the choices made, but also into the consequences that were still unfolding. The conflict had not only resulted in a technical split, but also in ideological divisions, that would influence the cryptocurrency community for years to come. The block size debate and the birth of Bitcoin Cash lingered as a reminder of the challenges inherent in decentralized decision-making. It was late August 2017 when the community began to piece together what this split truly meant. Bitcoin was navigating waters that few technologies had ventured into before. Developers, miners, and users worldwide were assessing the implications of adopting or rejecting the changes that had occurred. This wasn't just about code or blocks. It was about the identity and future of a currency that defied traditional boundaries. The fork had created Bitcoin Cash, a new cryptocurrency with a larger block size, aiming to fulfill Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision of a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. But what did this mean for Bitcoin, the original chain? Bitcoin continued with the implementation of segregated witness, SegWit, which was activated in late August 2017. SegWit promised to alleviate some of the congestion by increasing block capacity without altering the block size limit. It was considered a middle ground, a compromise struck in the heat of debate. Yet, the activation of SegWit left a lingering question. Was it enough? For many in the community, the block size debate was an eye-opener. It revealed not only the technical challenges of scaling, but also the deep-seated differences in philosophy among its participants. On one side were the pragmatists, those who believed in increasing block size to accommodate more transactions directly on the blockchain. On the other side were the purists, who advocated for maintaining the original protocol with minimal changes, arguing that decentralization and security were paramount. This division mirrored the internal struggle of an adolescent currency trying to find its identity in a fast-paced digital world. Nakamoto's 1 megabyte block size limit set in 2010 was intended as a temporary measure to prevent spam attacks in Bitcoin's infancy. By 2015, the limit was creating bottlenecks, and transaction fees began to spike due to full blocks. The rising fees posed a threat to Bitcoin's usability as an everyday currency. Many in the community started questioning whether Bitcoin could truly be a scalable system for global payments. The ideals of low-cost, fast transactions were fading into memory, leaving users frustrated and developers scrambling for solutions. The investigation into the aftermath of the block size debate took many forms. It was not just about parsing through lines of code and logs of discussions. It was also about assessing the human aspect, understanding the motivations, the miscommunications, and the resolutions that were never reached. Gavin Anderson and Mike Hearn, who had initiated Bitcoin XT in June 2015, had both moved on from the project. Their attempt to increase the block size to 8 megabytes was a bold move that had faced immense resistance. By early 2016, Bitcoin Classic emerged with a more modest 2 megabyte proposal. Neither proposal succeeded in gaining the necessary consensus, illustrating the complexities of reaching agreement in a decentralized system. Blockstream's developers, who were prominent figures in the Bitcoin Core team, opposed on-chain scaling. They argued for solutions like the Lightning Network, which allowed transactions to occur off-chain, reducing the burden on the main blockchain. This approach was seen as innovative, but also as a departure from Bitcoin's original roadmap. The New York Agreement in May 2017 was an ambitious attempt at compromise, proposing SegWit activation followed by a block size increase. It was a fleeting truce in a sea of disagreement. Some embraced it as a practical solution. Others saw it as a betrayal of core principles. During this period, Bitcoin saw its price soar, attracting a wave of new investors and users. However, the rift was becoming a permanent fixture, etched into the history and culture of Bitcoin. The split gave rise to Bitcoin Cash, a fork that represented the culmination of big block supporters' frustrations. It was both a release and a rebellion, an assertion that there could be more than one path forward. Bitcoin Cash would march into its future, aiming to deliver on promises of improved transaction speed and lower fees by increasing the block size to 8 megabytes and later to 32 megabytes. Yet, the creation of Bitcoin Cash did little to silence the echoing debates. If anything, it intensified the diversity of opinions on what Bitcoin should become. The community was left to reckon with multiple versions of the same vision, a testament to the power and perils of open-source development. Developers like Peter Todd and Adam Back continued to work on Bitcoin Core, insisting on solutions that preserved security and decentralization. Meanwhile, Bitcoin Cash proponents like Roger Ver and Jihan Wu championed the benefits of larger blocks. This ideological divergence highlighted the evolutionary nature of Bitcoin. It was a currency and a community that was constantly redefining itself in response to technological, economic, and philosophical challenges. For many, the block size debate was emblematic of the growing pains faced by disruptive technologies. It was a reminder of the fragility and resilience of decentralized communities. The lessons learned were not confined to Bitcoin alone, but were echoed in the broader cryptocurrency landscape. As we move toward the next chapter, we will explore how Bitcoin's community continues to grapple with new challenges, charting a course through uncharted territories. The debates that once threatened to tear it apart have now become part of its fabric, a reminder of its complex journey and the unyielding spirit of its advocates. In the end, Bitcoin's story is far from over. The investigation into its past continues to illuminate its path forward, leading us to question not just what Bitcoin is, but what it can ultimately become. The investigation into its past continues to illuminate its path forward, leading us to question not just what Bitcoin is, but what it can ultimately become. The story of Bitcoin's block size debate is not merely a tale of technical disagreements. It is a reflection of human nature, of conflicting visions, and the pursuit of ideological purity versus practical adaptability. As we unravel the threads of the past, we find ourselves standing at the crossroads of digital currency and digital identity, considering what legacy we're shaping for future generations. The roots of the block size debate stretch back to 2010, when Bitcoin's enigmatic creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, imposed a 1 megabyte limit on blocks. This limit was meant to prevent potential spam attacks, but would unintentionally sow the seeds of contention. By 2015, the cracks in this foundation began to show. Bitcoin's transaction fees rose dramatically as blocks filled to capacity, leaving users frustrated and transactions delayed. As the community grappled with these growing pains, Gavin Andresen and Mike Hearn proposed a bold solution. In June 2015, they launched Bitcoin XT, advocating for an 8 megabyte block size increase. Their initiative marked the first significant rebellion against the status quo, sparking heated discussions about the future of Bitcoin's scalability. By 2016, Bitcoin Classic emerged as another contender in the scaling debate. Proposing a more modest 2 megabyte increase, it attracted a sizable portion of miner support. Despite this support, Bitcoin Classic failed to unify the community. The allure of a quick fix was shadowed by fears of centralization and the potential erosion of Bitcoin's decentralized ethos. The split between Bitcoin Core developers and those aligned with Blockstream added another layer of complexity. Core developers, wary of increasing the block size, advocated for off-chain solutions like the Lightning Network. This proposal promised to preserve Bitcoin's decentralization by facilitating faster transactions without altering the block size limit. Blockstream's influence stirred suspicions, with critics arguing that business interests were clouding technical judgments. The introduction of segregated witness, or SegWit, aimed to be a compromise. By altering how data was stored in blocks, SegWit increased block capacity without officially raising the block size limit. This technical innovation also addressed the issue of transaction malleability, which had plagued Bitcoin since its inception. However, SegWit was met with skepticism by those who saw it as a half measure, insufficient for the urgent needs of a burgeoning network. As tensions reached a boiling point, the New York Agreement was crafted in an attempt to broker peace. Signed in May 2017, this agreement sought a middle ground, the activation of SegWit followed by a block size increase. Yet, like many compromises born from necessity rather than consensus, it satisfied few and alienated many. The schism reached its zenith with the creation of Bitcoin Cash on August 1st, 2017. This new cryptocurrency, advocating for larger block sizes, embodied the desires of those who prioritized immediate transaction scalability over long-term potential risks. Bitcoin Cash's fork from Bitcoin was more than a technical division. It was a philosophical one, highlighting the diverse visions that existed within the community. In the years that followed, both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash carved their paths. Bitcoin, despite its scaling challenges, continued to be viewed as digital gold, a store of value rather than a medium for everyday transactions. Meanwhile, Bitcoin Cash pursued its vision of peer-to-peer electronic cash, emphasizing speed and low fees. But what does this legacy mean for the future? The block size debate has left an indelible mark on the cryptocurrency landscape. It has catalyzed innovations, such as the Lightning Network, which now processes transactions off-chain with increasing efficiency. SegWit, too, has seen gradual adoption, improving transaction throughput and security. The human stories behind these technical milestones remind us of the passion driving this digital frontier. Developers, miners, and users worldwide have invested countless hours and resources, believing in Bitcoin's transformative potential. Their dedication has spurred a wave of financial inclusion, offering banking alternatives to the unbanked and posing challenges to traditional financial systems. Yet for all its revolutionary promise, Bitcoin remains a work in progress. The block size debate underscored the necessity for adaptability, urging the community to balance ideological purity with practical realities. It highlighted the importance of open dialogue and the willingness to challenge entrenched beliefs for the sake of progress. Looking forward, the lessons from this period are invaluable. As Bitcoin continues to evolve, the community must navigate new challenges, from regulatory pressures to environmental concerns. The legacy of the block size debate serves as a testament to the resilience and dynamism inherent in decentralization. The future of Bitcoin is unwritten, shaped by the collective decisions of its stakeholders. Will it retain its status as digital gold, or will it achieve the vision of ubiquitous, frictionless transactions? The answers hinge on the community's ability to learn from its past and innovate for its future. As we conclude this chapter, we find ourselves on the precipice of further exploration. The narrative of Bitcoin is far from complete, with new developments continually reshaping its landscape. In the next chapter, we delve into the broader implications of Bitcoin's evolution, examining how it influences the world beyond cryptocurrency. Questions linger in the air, urging us to seek answers. What role will Bitcoin play in the global economy? How will its story intersect with those of emerging digital currencies? The journey continues, as promising as it is unpredictable, inviting us to chart the course of a financial revolution still in its infancy. The block size debate within the Bitcoin community was, on the surface, a technical disagreement. But at its core, it touched on something far deeper, the very essence of what Bitcoin was meant to be. Was it a universal payment system, accessible to everyone, or a digital store of wealth, safeguarded by its scarcity and the integrity of its network? In many ways, this debate mirrors the perennial human struggle to balance ideals with practical realities. It is a reminder that technology, no matter how advanced, is ultimately shaped by the humans who create and sustain it. Our visions, values, and at times our stubbornness all play a role in shaping the systems we build. The narrative of Bitcoin's block size debate also underscores the fragility and resilience of trust. Trust in technology, certainly, but more importantly, trust in each other. As developers and enthusiasts argued, what was at stake was not just the efficiency of the network, but the belief in a shared vision. Every cryptocurrency is a testament to collective faith, that disparate individuals can come together, reach consensus, and build something larger than themselves. It is here, in this intersection of technology and humanity, that the true challenge lies. The emergence of Bitcoin Cash as a fork from the original blockchain serves as a poignant symbol of both division and evolution. It is a testament to the fact that sometimes differences do not lead to destruction, but to divergent paths, each charting its own course. As we reflect on this chapter of Bitcoin's history, we are reminded of the ongoing journey of innovation. The challenges faced and the solutions sought continue to teach us about the importance of adaptability and the need for open dialogue. In the quiet moments that follow this story, consider the wider implications. How technology, at its best, serves the needs of those who wield it, and how, at its worst, it can divide. May this reflection guide you towards rest, a gentle embrace of the thoughts and dreams that stir in the night. Let the lessons of this story settle softly as you drift into the quietude of sleep, where ideas blend with dreams and you find your peace. Good night.